Plane travel is a great way to reach any destination of your choice quickly and conveniently. The chances of a plane accident are 1 in 11 million. However, people still travel for work, leisure, or to meet someone close. Despite the odds, safety is always a priority when flying. Flying is generally a safe activity, but the small likelihood of something going wrong can be rather scary. While the odds are slim, it's always important to be aware of potential risks. Air travel may often come with reports of engine troubles, and even sightings of ghosts on board. In this video, you can experience 15 chilling videos recorded by flight passengers that show you things no one was supposed to witness. Number 15. Blast on the plane. Since 9/11, the security measures at airports have been pretty strict. But even with such strong measures, unexpected things do happen. On Dello Airlines, flight number 159, February 2nd, 2016, a bomb would detonate that was designed with the intention to kill all of those who were on board. The explosive device was built into a laptop computer that got past X-ray machines at the Mogadishu airport, and it blew a hole in the skin of the airline plane. The suspected bomber was blown out of the plane, and his body was then recovered on the ground near Mogadishu. The bomber knew precisely where to sit and how to place the device to maximize the most damage. But the delay in flight for an hour would save the lives of people on board. The blast likely would have set off a catastrophic secondary explosion in the fuel tank if the aircraft had reached cruising altitude, but fortunately it didn't. One of the passengers recorded the video, which shows the hole that resulted from the explosion. Even with so much foolproof security, the bomber was able to get the laptop with explosives inside the plane, indicating that there are a lot of explosives that the security systems could not detect at the time. The bomb attack was linked to a militant Islamist group, Al-Shabaab, carrying out deadly attacks in its quest to establish an Islamic State. Fortunately, though, the bomber was the only person who was sucked out of the plane, while most passengers remained safe, and only 2 would face major injuries due to the explosion. Number 14. Brace for impact. Brace for impact are the last words you want to hear when you're on an airplane. The passengers on an American Airlines flight from Phoenix to Dallas were told to brace for impact as their plane made an emergency landing because of mechanical issues. As you can see in the frightening video filmed by Scottsdale, Arizona resident Steve Ramsdell, a flight attendant can be heard saying, "Keep your heads down." Ramsdell was a certified pilot and was present on the plane of Mesa Airlines when a fire broke out in the plane's cockpit. In the beginning, the passengers felt as though someone had actually burned some snickerdoodle cookies or something up front, and they remained calm. But after a few moments, a flight attendant was seen running back and forth when she announced about the smoke in the cockpit and that the plane would have to make an emergency landing. The flight attendant was briefing the passengers on emergency landing techniques when Ramsdell pulled out his phone to capture the intense moment. People followed the instructions of the crew, and the plane made a successful and safe emergency landing. But cockpit fires are still the scariest type of emergency that you can have on a plane. Number 13. Cabin's walls panels cracked loose. When you're on board a plane, you expect everything to work smoothly so that you can have a safe flying experience. But this is not always the case. Things can go south at any time. When a Boeing 757 departed from San Francisco International Airport to Dallas, the passengers began to feel something just wasn't right as they felt the fuselage violently shake and heard popping noises coming from outside the plane as it made its initial ascent. The passengers would notice that the interior panels on both sides of the aircraft were pulled apart from the walls, and they began screaming for flight attendants to see. It was very disturbing for the passengers to see part of the airplane break. But according to aviation experts, the cabin's wall panels are not a part of the plane structure itself. They're just there so that you don't have to look at a bare skeleton. Initially, the captain decided to continue the flight to Dallas because the cabin didn't lose pressure and oxygen masks did not deploy. But one of the passengers posted a video on Facebook, and a wave of nervousness and tension caused the pilot to rethink his decision and turn the flight back because of a possible blown air duct. The emergency flight landed back safely and nobody was hurt. Number 12. The mystery of passengers out of nowhere. It's very common to see passengers walking up a jet bridge toward the terminal at an airport. But what if you see the passengers appearing out of nowhere on the jet bridge that has no airplane parked on it? How would you feel about something happening like this? A Bangkok Airways pilot saw the ghost passengers with hand luggage in tow with no plane in sight at the Phuket International Airport, capturing shadowy figures on his camera who were likely a reflection of passengers that were already inside the terminal. No plane could actually be seen, and the floating shadowy figures were called ghosts. Many different theories have emerged to solve this mystery of ghosts, and according to one of them, passengers had declaimed from a remote gate and were transported to the jet bridge and then got onto this empty jet bridge via a set of adjacent stairs. But no one knows for sure what actually happened. Even the Bangkok Airways pilot who recorded the incident from the cockpit of his plane hasn't commented on the video and the calls for the eerie footage. Number 11. A snake on the plane. How would you feel if you got to know that you're in mid-air sitting comfortably enjoying your flight, but there's an uninvited, venomous passenger, that being a snake? Well, obviously you would freak out and panic, and the same thing happened in an AirAsia domestic flight headed out of Kuala Lumpur. The image of the snake slithering through the plane's light fixtures was shared by a social media user who was a passenger on the plane. Although the venomous creature was away from the passengers, it still created a disconcerting wave. When the pilot learned about the uninvited passenger, he rerouted the plane to the city of Kuching. Captain Leong Tin Lane, or Asia's chief safety officer, said that it was a very rare incident that could occur on any aircraft from time to time. The plane would land safely on the ground and the snake be removed. The plane was also fumigated before letting passengers back on. It was not known how the snake actually got onto the plane, but the video of the snake got viral on social media, claiming millions of views as people began to compare the clip to the classic cult snakes on a plane. Number 10. The miracle on the Hudson. Miracles are real or not, that's the debate for some other time. But the emergency landing on the Hudson River can definitely be counted as a miracle that would save the lives of about 150 people and 5 crew members on board. US Airways Flight 1549 on a clear January day in 2009 ran into a flock of geese shortly after takeoff from New York City's LaGuardia Airport. The engines were severely damaged and the plane began to descend. When pilots Chesley Sullenberger and Jeffrey Skiles decided on an emergency landing, which almost appeared as an impossible option. Sullenberger made a mayday call 2 seconds after the strike, calmly reporting about the plane losing thrust on both the engines. The pilot's initial request was to return to LaGuardia, but after realizing that the plane was not going to make it there, he requested landing options at Teterboro Airport, New Jersey. Soon after, though, he would realize that he couldn't make it there either, and had to make the landing in the Hudson River. Now, as you can see in this footage, how swiftly the plane is landing on the water. After the emergency landing, the people were evacuated from the plane through different boats and ferries, and all the people remained safe during the landing with only 5 occurring major injuries. The decision of Sullenberger was put under the microscope by people who disagreed with the water landing. But after the detailed investigation that National Transportation Safety Board conducted, it was declared the best course of action. The video clip of the landing of the US Airways Flight 1549 got the attention of millions of people, and Sullenberger got praised by all of them. It was definitely a traumatic experience the passengers had to witness, but it was a miracle that saved lives, and Hollywood even made a major motion picture out of it. Number 9. Engine failure scare. In 2007, AirAsia Flight D7237 departed from Perth at 6:40 a.m. towards Kuala Lumpur with 359 passengers on board. But it was not a regular flight because the passengers thought it would be their last one. The plane was about to fly over the Indian Ocean when the passengers heard a loud banging noise at 30,000 feet, followed by an announcement by the pilot asking the passengers to say a prayer and that their survival depended on their cooperation.
Please listen to their breathing. Our survival depends on your cooperating.
Violent shaking of the seats, accompanied by the constant shaking of the overhead storage bins, was something the passengers had to bear throughout their flight. Even during their ride back when the pilot decided to take the aircraft back to Perth. According to one passenger, it was a really shaky and very scary flight.
And since then the plane was really limping home, like it was shuddering. We all thought, we're just going to go down.
And many passengers on board were crying and clutching their life jackets, hoping to land safely. The passengers had to brace for about 2 minutes while the plane was approaching to land back in Perth, although the engine failure scare was a nightmare for the passengers. The pilot was able to land the aircraft safely on the ground, and the passenger cabin erupted in applause once the plane was on the ground. The plane was designed to fly on one engine in the event of failure of the other, but it was still a very traumatic experience for the people on board and is definitely a very scary story. Number 8. Air China possession. Many people don't believe in ghosts or evil possessions, but when you're mid-air and someone claims that they'd been possessed and makes a complete scene, you'll definitely be concerned. Something similar occurred on an Air China flight from Beijing on December 20th, 2017. A woman in her 50s claimed that her body was possessed by evil spirits that couldn't be seen and asked the pilot to land the plane after 20 minutes after departure. Shortly after the Air China plane departed from Beijing, the woman passed out briefly. Her condition was pointed out by a fellow passenger who reported it to the cabin crew. Shortly afterwards, she would regain consciousness and allegedly told flight attendants that there were things that were possessing her body. In video footage that was taken on board by another passenger, you can see how at least 6 people, including medical staff, are attempting to calm the woman, urging her to seek medical attention. The woman also lashed out at a security officer and refused to get any medical attention. She just kept saying that things were possessing her body and that you cannot find it by health checks. The pilot would decide to take the flight back to Beijing Airport after about 40 minutes after takeoff, and we don't know what happened to the woman afterwards. But according to customer service, she experienced sudden illness, while no comments were made of her claim of demonic possession. Number 7. Scorpion on the plane. Up until now, we thought that snakes may be the worst animals to be found on a plane, but there's something far worse, or even equally as worse as snakes, that being scorpions. A scorpion sting is one of the worst things you can experience, and one stung a passenger on flight 1554 from San Francisco to Atlanta. The woman felt a stinging sensation on her leg during the flight. When she went to the toilet, the scorpion fell out of her trousers and scuttled away. The airline crew responded immediately to the incident, and paramedics would treat the passenger before being taken to the hospital. It's not the first time that scorpions have actually been found on a commercial airline. It's occurred many times, and it might lead us to think that these creepy crawlies are happier 30,000 feet above the land than they are in a desert. Earlier in 2019, a scorpion would be filmed crawling out of the overhead luggage rack. On a Lion Air flight in Indonesia, a similar incident occurred back in 2017, when a Canadian man said that he was stung by a scorpion on a United Airlines flight. Richard Bell said that the scorpion fell on his head from above while he was eating lunch on the flight from Houston, Texas to Calgary, Canada. The airline would offer him flying credit as compensation, which he actually accepted. Later in 2017, an EasyJet flight from Paris to Glasgow would be delayed overnight after a passenger spotted a scorpion on board. The sting of all the scorpions may not be venomous, but it does hurt, and they are certainly very creepy to look at. Number 6. Passenger landing the plane. When it comes to handling a plane and ensuring the safety of the passengers, the first person that comes to mind would be the pilot. But what if the pilot is rendered unconscious for some reason? There's no co-pilot, and the only person to rely on is an inexperienced person ready to take control of the cockpit and make a landing. The same thing happened during a flight that was headed from the Bahamas to Florida. The pilot actually wasn't feeling well, and after some time, he would lose consciousness due to some medical condition. During that difficult situation, a man by the name of Darren Harrison, who had no idea how to fly a plane, climbed over 3 rows of seats and into the cockpit as the plane was in a nosedive, and moved the unconscious pilot out of the way so that he could put the headphones on and alert air traffic control to the situation. According to him, his heart rate had hiked up to 160, and all he knew was that his pilot had gone incoherent, and he had to fly the plane, even though he had no idea how. Harrison contacted the air traffic control at the Fort Pierce Tower and got in touch with air traffic controllers and part-time flight instructor Robert Morgan. They instructed him to fly safely and land the plane at Palm Beach International Airport. Harrison remained calm, cool, and collected through the entire situation and didn't panic because he knew how that could cause everyone to lose their life. In the do or die situation, Harrison proved to be a hero, and he saved not only his life, but the life of all the passengers on board. That's what a true hero does, but it definitely was a terrifying thing that could happen again during another flight. Number 5. The meltdown of the flight attendant. Flight attendants are often seen as calm individuals who greet you with a smile and look after your needs while traveling on a plane. But flight attendants may not always be as relaxed as they are most of the time. An American Airlines flight headed to Chicago had to return to the gate at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, following a struggle that occurred after a flight attendant made disturbing references to September 11th and the plane crashing. According to passengers on board, the flight attendant showed signs of erratic behavior from the beginning of the flight. The attendant's comments over the public address system would draw even more attention of the people because she said that she would not be responsible for the plane crashing. And when the flight left the airport, she remembered that she had forgotten her meds. While some passengers captured the entire scene on their cameras, others did try to restrain the attendant. Brad Leclerc was one of those men who helped restrain the flight attendant, and according to law enforcement officials, the attendant was taken out of the plane in handcuffs. After the airline would replace the crew, the plane then took off for O'Hare International. While the airline told that 2 flight attendants were taken to the hospital, they'd never revealed what they were treated for, and what was the condition of the female flight attendant after the incident. Number 4. Landing in a storm. Pilots are the most important people on the plane because not only do they have to fly the huge metal structure, they also have to make sure that the flight is smooth and all the passengers land safely, even if they encounter some alarming situation. The sight of the aircraft struggling amid brutal winds shows how many skills are required by a pilot to make sure the plane lands safely even during the high winds. You can see in this video how skillfully the pilot is monitoring and assessing the changing weather conditions and using the crosswind technique even though the runway is not visible at the start. The storm could have resulted in a terrible outcome, but the pilots safely landed the plane through all the turbulence and made sure that everyone remains safe. Number 3. Hawaii plane crash. Encountering a plane crash and surviving through it is one thing, but then being able to play it again and again, not only in your mind, but also on your phone, well, that's another. A survivor of a Hawaii plane crash, Ferdinand Puente would grab his GoPro camera and record the event as the plane began to go down. Ferdinand was one of 9 passengers on a 2002 Cessna Grand Caravan, which suddenly suffered engine failure in Hawaii. When Ferdinand heard the engine fail and the plane heading into the water, he took out his GoPro and began to film what could have been his own demise. Puente knew the danger, yet the decision to film as much as possible might perplex a few. It managed to get out of the plane alive and survive the crash, but his camera recorded the state of panic of the passengers and captured pictures and videos of the inside of the plane and beneath the ocean waters. As the group awaited rescue, one person actually died during the crash, and the footage of the incident brings a lot of sad and painful memories, not only for the survivors, but for the people who see the video on social media. Number 2. Extreme in-flight turbulence. Usually when we hear the word turbulence, we think of some minor or perhaps even some violent distortions for different reasons when the plane is in the air. But thinking of turbulence waves during which the humans and a food cart are tossed up and down the plane. Well, that's a horrifying thing to imagine. While traveling from Pristina, the capital of Kosovo, to Euro Airport in France, a woman captured something extraordinary on her camera. As you can see in the video, the flight attendant, along with the beverage cart that she'd been wheeling, were flung into the air and struck the cabin ceiling. The passenger who recorded the video was convinced that the plane was going to crash, and she was not the only one to think such a thing alone amidst such chaos and uncertainty. It's been reported that some people were actually burned by hot water from the trolley, and that the videographer's husband also happened to be one of 10 people that would be taken to the hospital when the plane landed. This is terrifying to imagine humans and the trolley tossed together inside the plane, but it does happen from time to time. Number 1. Ghost passenger. Now, you may have seen this video going viral all over social media, and if you look at the caption, you'll see the former Emirates cabin crew member Sandra Kwan has written a hashtag true story. Her fellow cabin crew members were chatting to the wife of a sleeping passenger on a night flight, only to find out later that the man's wife had actually passed away the previous week. In the video, Kwan, as the flight attendant chats to a friendly woman sitting next to her sleeping husband, saying that she's cold, and asking the flight attendant for a blanket. She also asked the staffer for a green tea with milk and sugar for her husband for when he wakes up. When Kwan, the flight attendant, goes back to the galley to chat with a colleague, they say that the sleeping man is traveling alone. When the crew member brings the man his green tea, he tells her that his wife had passed away the previous week. Not only that, but he also reveals that her body is being transported home in the cargo hold of the same flight. This story may be hard to believe, but given the strange things happening around lately, maybe we can agree on the possibility of something like this actually occurring.